First fundamental, understanding the buyer mindset. And the buyer mindset in B2B across the buying cycle, it's not transactional, right? So it takes time. Multiple people are involved in it. What's the buyer mindset? First step, buyer goes through a stage of contemplation, thinking about it, considering. He's not taking any action. सोच रहा है, दिमाग में चल रहा है बात, it is going on, right? Once that thought keeps on going, there comes a moment where he says, okay, now I want to start action. But he doesn't come into action without thinking. There is always a period of thinking, being influenced, having seen that product or that kind of thing somewhere else, a friend talked to him, seen it in an advertisement, something, or read about it in some article. So there's a thought process that involves, and it's extremely crucial that you're aware about these things, that when the buyer is in thought process stage, then the first step is, okay, I need to build my knowledge around it. I need to make a needs list. I need to build my specifications. What kind of material I want, what kind of timeline I want, what kind of chemicals are required, whatever is the input. I need to make a list. If it's a car, do I need safety? For how many people? Yeah, so if you're buying an office space, or if you're buying certain air conditioning equipment for a particular type of industry you are in, okay, is the humidity factor well controlled in it? So each thing is thought out. Once the specification list is built, buyer gets into what are my options. He tries to list out different products, suppliers, and goes out and does a credibility check. Today, buyers do all this much online, and then they come to you for a conversation. They come to you for a conversation when they have done this much, saying that, hey, what's your price? Can we do a negotiation? And you, mostly as sales professionals, we jump straight into doing that price conversation and grapple to explain the benefits. You say, okay, but sir, this is the benefit, but this, but that, can we do this discussion? Can we do that? It's not spread out. It's just spread out in a haphazard manner. There's one more thing buyer is looking for at this point in time before he makes a final decision. At the back of his mind, he is evaluating his risks. If I go with this person, what are my risks, and do I know how to mitigate those risks? And various types of risks are involved. Personal, financial. Personal, as I said, okay, by making this decision, will my career grow? That's a personal risk. If it will not grow, can I go with somebody else? Can I change the specifications and do something else, right? So the personal motivation comes into play. Personal, financial, operational, technical, transitional, so on and so forth. Finally, the buyer also, after he has placed the order, his mind is not at rest. He's thinking, is this working for me? In B2B sale, typically it's not one time and forgotten. You need to be involved with the buyer even after the payment has come or the advance has come. There's a period of time where there is the delivery, the execution, so on and so forth, and the hand-holding all takes place. So the buyer's thinking, am I getting what I was promised by the vendor? Are things changing the way they are supposed to, right? And once he's happy, convinced, he goes back into the cycle. So he'll start this as his business moves, or he will start this for another thing. You solved one problem, now you solve the next problem. Can you see that you are kicking in somewhere here? You are kicking in between step 3 and 4 most often. And what do? We kind of flow forward. Mostly we flow forward and flow fast with the customer because we feel uneasy. If I don't keep pace with the customer, then I'm kind of signaling, a low interest, or kind of signaling that, I'm not good enough, so on and so forth. I need to keep pace. I'm not respecting the customer, etc. But the crucial thing is, go back in conversation to discover what his need is, what his context is. Once you discover his need and context, okay, position your option. Make him see your option. And then do a very good, clear, authentic risk mitigation conversation. What are his risks? Don't overdo it. You cannot cover all his risks, but show authentic intent to say that I understand your risk, I'm concerned about you. And I'll repeat these thoughts when I come to discussing the 5 elements of a core B2B conversation. Okay, so this is crucial. Go back, do the need analysis, go back, do the differentiated positioning, do the conversation on the risk mitigation, and see how the customer starts vibing with you a lot more, how your sales progress closer and closer to negotiation and finalization. Fundamental 2, spend time diagnosing. Decision maker. Let me see if I can address that in some time. Sukumaran, hold your thought there. I'm not spending too much time on that. We'll do that at the end. So I just hang around. I will share that slide again at the end. Right now to keep the flow moving forward. Okay. So a decision maker is important. I'll just try and discuss that a bit more today. But that's not a big emphasis of my presentation today. But hold your thought. I'll try and cover it when I talk about people and their needs at that point in time. Okay. Fundamental 2. What is fundamental 2? Everyone likes to be heard and have the ability to listen. It's not easy. Age differences come, knowledge differences come, but have the ability and intent and interest to listen. Have you ever gone to a doctor? He kind of asked you 1 or 2 questions. He said, "Acha, this is the prescription. Go take it. Come back and see me next week." You've done, and what did you feel? पूछा ही नहीं. Is he really diagnosing me? मतलब समझा क्या हमारा? What is happening inside me? Is he feeling it? And I'm feeling the pain. He's not even interested in me. Yes. Go to another doctor who will give you twice the the medicine that's twice more expensive, but he will really listen to you. Say, "Acha, this happened. Why it happened? What were you eating? What were you doing? Okay, when? If the light was on, your headache is happening because this kind of light is on, flash is happening. How was your sleep?" He'll ask you so many questions, and then you start talking. You feel happy that you shared all your issues there. So diagnosing is extremely important. In business, 2 types of questions for diagnosing. 1, discover the context. Try and understand, why is he buying this now? Why is he buying it for? Right? How will it change? What happened that led to this purchase? Discover the context. Ask those questions that help you discover the context and conversation. 2nd, pain. Oh, so what's the problem and how bad is it? Right? So if you're saying that my delivery is consistently delayed because there is a loss of electricity, right? So there's a power cut. How many times is power cut happening? Or what kind of impact is it happening? Do you really need this kind of a diesel generator, or do you really need this? Can you do with some batteries, solar power and a battery? What's the solution will come out of it based on understanding the source of the problem and the type of problem? What are the skills you need here? First skill, asking the right question. You are the knowledge and the expert. You have to ask the right question, ask smartly. Customers don't like you asking too many questions. Yes, you ask too many questions, they get pushback. So ask few questions and smartly that create interest, that gives you enough information to come back few days later and build on that. So asking questions is important. 2nd, listening. We all know salespeople get very excited, love to talk. We don't listen. I'll tell you one small story here. Xerox, in their business, I think this is research done in 1980s, before the era of modern printers and also 1980s, 90s, when printers, Xerox machines, started growing. They did this research there. They don't have a pen here. I would have showed it, but I'll just broadly show it to you, describe it to you. the salespeople that came in, they saw that the performance gradually went up over a period of time. After it went up, it gradually came down and the average settled at about 2/3 their best performance. So if their performance was 100 units, the best, some people stuck to that level, but the most people or the average came down to about 60 units or 70 units of performance. Do you know why? Can anyone guess why that happened? Consistently, they saw that pattern. It is because, yes, but before talking, they didn't diagnose, they didn't ask the questions. The customer felt ignored. The question, Dinesh, was that performance went up, but after a period of time, performance settled down at 70% of their capability. Why it happened? The reason they analyzed was the seller didn't diagnose. They said, oh, acha, you have this problem. 3 days back, I went that customer, the other buyer had the similar problem. You need a machine 4290. I will have that shipped. It's also there in my stock right now. I will have it shipped. This is the price. You see, he didn't diagnose why that person needed it. Diagnosis does two things. One, it shows interest to listen, it shows care, it shows willingness to solve the other person's problem. If you don't diagnose, it seems, hey, this guy is just pushing me his problem, his product, his solution on me. Kaise pata? It will solve my problem. Even if you know the answer, do the diagnosis. Even if you know it in one question, go through the process of doing that conversation and see how the empathy increases, how the interest of the customer increases. Ye banda sunta hai. He is a listener. So if I have a problem later, I can call him, he will listen, he will come sit with me and talk. I'll tell you one experience from my life. About 2002, 2003, we were doing business in Europe and we were selling BPO services, publishing BPO services. Very new at that time in the market. We were already there in the market for some time, and I had to meet the head of technical team that was observing our technical processes because a lot of quality errors were happening. And they gave us an ultimatum saying that because we are going to withdraw this business. I somehow managed to say, okay, give me 2 months, I'll come and meet you. He said, okay, come. I'm giving you only 30 minutes. If you have to convince me in 30 minutes that you are worth my time and that I have to continue this relationship. That was our second largest account at that point in time. I went into the meeting with so many this, that, and the other. 30-minute meeting ended up in 2.5 hours. 2.5 hours, I barely opened my laptop to show anything at that time. I closed and I discussed everything. I knew everything in my mind. I discussed everything on pen, paper, showing some samples, showing this, showing that. Okay, when this happens, this is how we change the tool and technology. This happened, change how organization structure we changed, everything. I went in for a 30-minute, 2.5 hour meeting. Why? Because every time he asked a question, I said, okay, this is the thing. This is what we are doing. I didn't go to convince him. I went to say, okay, I'm ready to talk to you. You tell me, these are things I've done. Do you have any questions? And then listen. Next morning, email went to my elder brother, who was the managing director of the company. Email went to my managing director, said that we are retaining the account. Says, Vikas, thank you for the presentation. See, that's the difference. Customer sees the intent if you have the ability to listen. Is it making sense? Have any of you felt the day I listened to somebody with that genuine intent, सामने वाले के चेहरे पे एकदम खिल गया. He really felt it. This guy listens. You could feel it on that person's face and body language. Yeah. Thank you. Fundamental. Okay, I'm going to go deeper into fundamental 2, and I spoke about expressed and unexpressed needs. right? Expressed and unexpressed needs are like an iceberg. What do customers mostly talk to you about? Productivity. I want to improve my productivity, my brand image, I want new technologies. I want a new decision dashboard. I want safety parameters changed. How can I improve my customer loyalty? These are all specifics, cost reduction. That's what they share with you. But where is the trigger? Where is the trigger? The trigger comes from deep within. Is it fears? Is he fearing there's a control factor, balance of power in the organization will change? Is it got to do with internal loyalties, personality types, biases, hope, pride? Are these things? You need to connect at this level. All this will become easy to deal with. Customer must feel that you have an understanding of this. These are the unexpressed needs. Nobody will tell you, if I buy from you, my balance of power will change. I'll be transferred somewhere else. I'll lose my job. Very few people open up to tell the truth or the real reality or the motivating factor. You remaining involved in the business, remaining concerned, having that interest to listen, having the emotional connect, making him feel trusted, secure. He will open up to these things, and then okay, if that's his problem, I need to help him solve that problem. I know I can solve this, but I need to help him solve that problem. Making sense? Expressed and unexpressed needs. Can make a note of some of these things, expressed and unexpressed needs. This is, and you have to keep thinking and keep practicing, keep thinking and keep practicing. Okay, moving on. Fundamental 3. Building an emotional connect. So once you have discovered the expressed and unexpressed need, we build an emotional connect. And for me, Maslow's law of hierarchy of needs is a very good point of reference. So you will see that I have converted Maslow's law of hierarchy of needs into 7 boxes here. But I have not put it in a hierarchical pyramid because Maslow puts that in a hierarchical pyramid to explain a social dynamic there, right? So he's explaining something else. But all those needs exist in us, in our buyers, at all moments in time. And sometimes that need is higher in this pocket, sometimes it's higher in that pocket. For someone, it is always higher in that pocket. Yeah, so Maslow's hierarchy of needs, go back and check 7. He proposed 5. Modern day people have evolved it to 7, 8, etc. I like to think of these as this 7. Basic needs, safety, security, stability. Now when I'm talking about this, think about how this correlates to a business or a business person. Stability and security are important to a business person as well. Okay, belongingness, good relationships. People want respect. Yeah, whether it's in company, home, society, they all want. They want that respectability, right? Self-esteem. Everyone wants status, ownership. I'm in control, right? The mental aspect, answers to how and why. Yeah, people have the beauty, the creativity aspect to themselves. So in some businesses, it's about how beautiful is it. The marketing side, it's the creativity and the expression of creativity, or the inner completeness and self-fulfillment, the joy of doing what you're doing, that kind of inner fulfillment. Now map this to the different roles you talk. What is the CTO or the head of technology, or head of engineering, where you are making a sales pitch? What are his bigger needs? On the face of it, the visible is he wants amazing technology. He wants an amazing product. He wants complete scalability. He wants security. These are all visible needs. He wants ease of implementation. But his unexpressed need is what? He's very often a very intelligent, kind of always thinking, questioning. He wants the answers to how, what, why kind of person. He wants to ensure that he does not goof up the stability of somebody else. He could be low on self-esteem, that you have to make a judgment. If he's high on self-esteem, how do you bring those elements of conversation into a self-esteem? Okay, are you part of this group? Have you seen this happen in that group? Wasn't that amazing? What do you think of that kind of a new technology that's coming? You create those conversations if you feel that he is on self-esteem. Why? Because you need to build an emotional connect. And I'm repeating this. Buyers buy emotionally. You, me, everyone buys emotionally. And if you have heard many other sessions on MSMEX platform, everyone is saying, the branding guys, the marketing guys, other sales experts are saying, buyers buy emotionally. Don't mistake that. You need to make an emotional connect with the person, a vibe with the person. Okay. For the CEO, profits, personal brand, his image, his name, fame, all these are his drivers, the brand value of the company, right? Self-esteem is extremely important to him. Is he belonging to a respectable group, community? Is he seen in that group? Does he want to go into that group? Says, if I achieve this, then I'll be seen in that class, in that membership group or whatever. What's important to him, right? Is it about his inner fulfillment? The operations person, where is he operating in this? Typically here, right, on the face of it. But again, what is important to him? Is he really a leadership type of person? He loves people. If he loves people, it's about inner fulfillment. It's not so much about self-esteem. It's about relationship and respect. Okay, how do you align to some of these things? And the more you have an ability to think about these aspects and align to the person emotionally, he will open up. He will open up, and what will he do? Once he opens up, he will start sharing this or giving you hints about the unexpressed needs. What are his fears? What are his prides and hopes that he is addressing, working on?